Hey team, for this week's analysis, we're going to be taking a closer look at one of the arguably more important characters on the FE7 roster, Matthew. This guy is pretty neat. I like his character, I like his utility, I like his face, everything. He honestly is actually a super cool dude, and now I'm going to spend about 4 minutes telling you why, and I'm going to love every second of it. So Matthew is a spy, like an actual, genuine James Bond spy. He works for the Austrian court, directly under Lord Uther. He joined up with Hector because he wanted to snag a quick taste of adventure, and he's a pretty sly and cool dude whenever he appears throughout the story. He doesn't appear often, but it makes me happy when he does. Let's get down to what's really important though. You get Matthew in the first chapter of Hector's mode and the third chapter of Eliwood's, so he's pretty readily available, especially given that in Eliwood's mode that's well before you actually need him for any thief things. Speaking of which, Matthew is a thief. This means that he is not intended to be a combat unit, and if you look at his strength and HP, that's pretty clear, with both of them being pretty low. On top of that, he's sword-locked. I could drone on and on about why being sword-locked really gimps his combat potential, but since Matthew is a thief and his combat really isn't super important to his ability to contribute, I'll leave it at that for now. Why doesn't his combat matter, you ask? Well, because as a thief, there are a lot of other things for Matthew to be doing that don't involve combat, but that other units can't do. For instance, stealing. As long as Matthew's speed is higher than an enemy unit's, he can steal non-weapon items from them and then gain a little experience for it. In a ranked run, this is free experience that no one else is competing for to help with your experience rank. That's why his only truly important stat is his speed. Now that seems like a really bleak view on the class as a whole, but in all honesty, there really aren't enough situations in the early game that would warrant using his 4 strength for combat instead of his 11 speed for stealing. As far as thieves go though, he's immaculate. Again, he has 11 base speed. That's an incredible thing for a thief to have at base level, and since most of the enemies in FE7 are super slow, he can steal from pretty much any generic enemy in the early game at base. That being said, FE7 doesn't really have a whole lot of stealables that aren't on bosses, and for most of those he'll need some speed level ups, but with a 70% speed growth, he'll probably be leveling speed a lot anyway. So stat-wise, Matthew is set for everything he needs to be set for. His other stats, growths included, are all kinda low, but again, the only one he needs for stealing is his speed, so it's really not that big a deal. His con being a little low isn't necessarily a bad thing either, since it makes him a lot easier to rescue after he's stolen something. He has so much speed that any speed he bleeds off from a heavier weapon won't really affect his ability to double anyway, so it works out in his favor. As well as stealing though, Matthew has a few other uses. He can use lockpicks to open doors and chests, and he has 1 additional movement over your other foot units so that he can get to the doors and chests easier, or maybe get to a village a little earlier. He can also see a lot further than your other units in thick fog. Another thief thing he can do is find things buried in the sand in desert chapters without having to deal with RNG at all. There's only 1 desert chapter to do this in, but there's also a stealable guiding ring in that chapter, and it makes him pretty valuable there. There's not a whole lot wrong with Matthew. Again, his combat is kinda shameful, but that's also not really how he should be spending his turns to be used at his fullest anyway. Matthew is one of those units where, even if you don't like them, you almost have to use them, since for a long time, Matthew is the only member of the team that can do what he does. You get another thief later in Legault, but he can't really do anything that Matthew can't do, and at the end of the day, it's up to you which one you choose. Or just use both, that's also an option if you want. Matthew can be a little frail as well, but if he's just picking a chest or something, or he's not alone when he's stealing, that's also not that much of a problem. To clarify, when I say not alone, I mean there's someone else there to kill whoever he's stealing from. Basically, just have a plan, and Matthew is an extraordinarily valuable member of the team, even necessary at times. He truly is one of the more unique units, and I highly recommend using him. But alas, the final vote is up to you, the viewer. Please, tell me how you feel about Matthew in the comments below. Your experience, something I missed, whatever you want. Thank you so much for watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, the whole bit, and I will see you next week. Bye!